There's a strange feeling hanging over Celtic right now, and if you've been following this season closely, you'll know exactly what I mean. Normally, when we hit this stage of the campaign and the international break rolls around, there's a sense of anticipation building. Fans start thinking about the run-in, the big moments ahead, the kind of excitement that makes you count down the days until football returns. But this time, it's different. This time, it feels like the break came as a bit of an escape, almost like everyone needed to switch off for a while because the mood around the club has taken a serious hit. It's not just about results either. It's the overall atmosphere. There's a kind of uncertainty that's crept in, and you can feel it in every conversation among supporters. Instead of looking forward to what's next, there's this lingering question of what Celtic are actually going to produce when they step back onto the pitch. That confidence, that belief that used to carry through even the tougher spells, just doesn't feel as strong right now. And that's a worrying place to be with so much still on the line. A big part of that comes down to what we saw just before the break. That performance didn't just cost points, it knocked the wind out of the sails completely. You can accept the odd defeat over the course of a long season, especially when you've been playing a lot of football, but what made it so difficult to take was the manner of it. There was no real spark, no identity, no sense that the team were capable of turning things around even when the game started slipping away. It looked flat, disconnected, and honestly, it left a lot of fans wondering where things go from here. That's been a recurring theme as well. Every time it feels like Celtic might be building a bit of momentum, something comes along and resets everything back to square one. A good result raises hopes, makes you think maybe this is the turning point, maybe this is where the season finally clicks into place. And then the next match comes along, and it's like all of that progress just disappears. It's been a cycle that's repeated itself far too often, and at this stage of the season, that inconsistency becomes even more damaging. Now, coming out of the international break, the situation couldn't really be more clear. The margin for error is gone. There's no room left for slip-ups or off days, and that puts an enormous amount of pressure on what happens next. The upcoming match feels massive, not just in terms of points, but in terms of what it represents for the rest of the campaign. There's a real sense that it's a turning point, one way or another. Either Celtic respond and show that there's still fight left in this team, or things could start slipping beyond reach very quickly. What makes it even more concerning is the current state of the squad. Injuries, absences, and a lack of depth in key areas have left things looking a bit thin, and that's never ideal when you're heading into a crucial stretch of fixtures. You want your strongest players available, you want options, you want competition for places pushing standards higher. Instead, it feels like the manager has had to juggle constantly, trying to find solutions without having a settled group to rely on. And then there's the mental side of it all. Confidence is everything in football, especially when you're chasing something as big as a league title. Right now, it's hard to say where that confidence is coming from. When performances dip the way they have, it doesn't just affect the fans, it seeps into the players as well. You can see it in the way they approach games, the hesitation, the lack of sharpness in key moments. These are the fine margins that decide matches, and Celtic haven't been getting them right consistently enough. Looking ahead to the next fixture, there's no hiding from the importance of it. This isn't just another game on the calendar, it's one that could define the direction of the rest of the season. The phrase win or bust gets thrown around a lot in football, but in this case, it genuinely feels accurate. Dropping points now doesn't just make things harder, it could effectively shut the door on any realistic chance of achieving what the club set out to do at the start of the campaign. At the same time, there's still that small part of every supporter that believes things can turn around. Football has a way of surprising you, and all it takes is one strong performance to shift the mood again. Maybe the break came at the right time. Maybe it allowed the players to reset mentally, to regroup and come back with a different energy. That's the hope, anyway. But hope alone isn't going to be enough. What matters now is what happens on the pitch, and whether this team can finally deliver when it matters most. Because the reality is, time is running out. The number of games left is shrinking, and every single one carries more weight than the last. Other teams in the race have shown their own weaknesses throughout the season, but relying on them to drop points isn't a strategy anymore. At this stage, it's all about taking control of your own results, putting together a run, and applying pressure where it counts. Celtic haven't managed to do that consistently so far, and that's exactly why this next stretch feels so decisive. There's also a bigger picture to consider here. It's not just about this one game or even the next few weeks. It's about the direction the team is heading in. Performances like the one before the break raise serious questions about style, identity, and whether the current approach is actually working. Fans want to see a team that looks organized, that plays with purpose, that has a clear plan. When that's missing, it becomes very difficult to stay optimistic, no matter what the league table says. All of this builds into what feels like a defining moment. The pressure is there, the expectations haven't gone away, and the opportunity is still within reach, but only just. What happens next will say a lot about this group of players, about their mentality, their resilience, and their ability to respond when everything is on the line. As much as the focus naturally falls on results at this stage, there's something deeper that needs addressed, and that's the overall identity of this Celtic side. When you watch the team just now, it's difficult to pin down exactly what they're trying to be. In the past, even during tougher periods, there was always a recognizable style, a clear intention in how the game was approached. Whether it was high-intensity pressing, quick movement in the final third, or simply controlling possession with authority, you could see the plan. Right now, that clarity feels blurred, and that's adding to the frustration. It's not just about tactics on a board, it's about how players interpret those tactics on the pitch. There have been too many moments where things look improvised rather than structured, where passes are played without conviction and movement off the ball just isn't there. When that happens, it makes the whole team look disjointed, and it becomes much easier for opponents to deal with. Even sides that you'd normally expect Celtic to dominate have found ways to stay comfortable in games, and that says a lot about where things currently stand. The concern grows when you think about the caliber of matches still to come. These aren't games where you can afford to drift in and out, hoping individual quality will bail you out. The teams around Celtic have shown they can be organized, disciplined, and clinical when it matters. If Celtic don't match that intensity, then it doesn't matter what's happened earlier in the season. The outcome becomes pretty predictable. That's why this next run isn't just about scraping wins. It's about proving that the team can actually compete at the level required. There's also been a lot of discussion around leadership within the squad, and that's something that naturally comes into sharper focus when results aren't going your way. In moments like these, you look towards the experienced players, the ones who've been through title races before, who understand the pressure and what it takes to come through it. Their role isn't just about performance. It's about setting standards, lifting those around them, and driving the team forward when things start to wobble. At times this season, that presence hasn't been as strong as it needs to be, and it's left the team looking a bit lost in key moments. When you hear comments suggesting that a handful of wins might be enough to get over the line, it can land in different ways depending on how things are going. In a season where everything feels under control, it might come across as calm confidence. But in a campaign like this, where inconsistency has been a major issue, it risks sounding out of touch with the reality on the pitch. Supporters aren't just looking for reassurance. They're looking for evidence, something tangible that shows the team is capable of delivering when it matters most. That's why performances in the upcoming fixtures carry so much weight beyond the points themselves. It's about restoring belief, both inside the dressing room and in the stands. A convincing display doesn't just move you up the table, it changes the narrative. It gives everyone something to hold on to. On the flip side, another flat or lifeless showing only deepens the doubts and makes the task ahead feel even more daunting. You also can't ignore how quickly momentum can shift in football, especially in a title race. One strong performance can spark a run, just as one poor result can send everything in the opposite direction. Celtic have been on the wrong side of that balance too often this season, building something only to see it collapse almost immediately. Breaking that pattern is absolutely crucial now, because there simply isn't enough time left to keep resetting and starting again. The upcoming match represents an opportunity to do exactly that, but it's going to take more than just turning up and expecting things to fall into place. The approach has to be sharper, the energy has to be higher, and the focus has to be there from the first minute to the last. There's no room for slow starts or lapses in concentration, because those are the moments that have cost points time and time again. Another factor that could play a significant role is the reaction from the supporters. Even though there's been frustration, there's still that underlying desire to see the team succeed, to get behind them when it counts. But that connection works both ways. When fans see effort, when they see commitment and a willingness to fight for every ball, it naturally lifts the atmosphere and creates a different kind of energy. That's something Celtic could really use right now, especially away from home where the environment can quickly turn hostile if things don't go to plan. As the final stretch of the season approaches, everything starts to feel more intense. Every pass, every decision, every moment carries that extra bit of pressure. For some players, that's where they thrive. It brings out their best. For others, it can have the opposite effect, and that's where the collective strength of the team becomes so important. It's about sticking together, staying disciplined, and not allowing setbacks within games to turn into something bigger. There's no getting away from the fact that the situation is finally balanced. The opportunity is still there, but it's hanging by a thread, and it's going to take a significant shift in performance levels to grab it. Celtic have shown glimpses of what they're capable of, but glimpses won't be enough anymore. It has to be consistent, it has to be convincing, and above all, it has to start immediately. What makes this even more intense is the psychological battle that's unfolding alongside everything happening on the pitch. At this stage of the season, it's not just about physical performance or tactical setups. It's about who can handle the pressure when everything is on the line. You can sense that tension building, especially when games don't start going your way. The key difference between teams that see it through and those that fall short often comes down to mentality, and right now, that's a question mark hanging over Celtic. Can they stay composed when the moment demands it, or will the weight of expectation start to creep in again? There's also the element of belief, and that's something that can change very quickly depending on what happens next. A strong start, an early goal, or even just a confident opening spell can completely shift the mood, not just within the team, but across the entire support. Suddenly, the doubts fade, the energy lifts, and everything starts to feel possible again. But the opposite is just as true. If things begin slowly or mistakes start creeping in, that nervousness can spread, and it becomes much harder to recover. That's why the opening phases of the next match feel so crucial, because they could set the tone for everything that follows. And when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, this is where seasons are truly defined. Not in the comfortable wins earlier in the year, but in these high-pressure moments where there's no margin for error. This is where players either step up and write their names into the story of the season, or where opportunities slip away. Celtic are standing right on that edge now, with everything still to play for, but nothing guaranteed. And what they produce next will shape how this entire campaign is remembered. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. A storm appears to be brewing in the east end of Glasgow, as whispers grow louder that Martin O'Neill could be on the verge of walking away from Celtic FC. Sources close to the club suggest a sense of deep frustration has been simmering beneath the surface, with the Northern Irishman reportedly reaching a breaking point. "I can't take it anymore," is the phrase being quietly echoed among those in the know, painting the picture of a manager worn thin by internal pressures rather than matters on the pitch. While nothing official has been confirmed, the tone from Lennox down has shifted dramatically, with staff and players said to be bracing for a potential departure that could shake the club to its core. O'Neill, long respected for his commanding presence and sharp football mind, has been a towering figure in the dressing room. Yet, speculation suggests tensions behind the scenes, ranging from disagreements over recruitment to strained relations with the board, may have pushed things too far. Those familiar with the situation hint that the gaffer feels his voice is no longer being fully heard. Supporters, meanwhile, are left in a state of unease. The terraces, usually roaring with confidence, now hum with uncertainty. Could this truly be the end of an era, or merely another chapter in the relentless drama that defines Scottish football? For now, Celtic remains silent, offering no clarity as rumors swirl. But in Glasgow, silence often speaks volumes. And this one feels different, heavier, as though something significant is about to give. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.